Today I want to present the subject of mistakes. While informational, my hopes is that this will encourage you more than anything. Some of what I have to say is basic, but we need to be reminded of the basics. If we forget the foundation, the house will collapse, no matter how beautiful and grand it is. We all make mistakes. We are humanity. We are flawed. While this is no excuse, living a mistake-free life is impossible. However, despite the mistakes that we do make, we can either go forward or we can give up. Mistake is defined by Oxford language as an action or judgment that is misguided or wrong. Dictionary.com states that mistakes are an error, or blunder in action, an opinion, or judgment. Essentially, we have a lapse in judgment, we make a bad choice, desires overwhelm us and we give in, we slip, we fall, we make a mistake. Mistakes, however, do not define us. Well, often people will remember the one thing you did wrong versus all that you did right. That's because we are hardwired to find the negative. Don't let this be the case. See others and yourself by the good deeds, not the negative. Encourage others when they make a mistake to get back up and to keep on going. Mistakes do not equate to failure. A mistake is when you fall down. A failure is when you stay down. As long as you get back up, a mistake is simply a mistake. It only transforms into a failure when you give up. We're going to take a look at a few people now who made some mistakes. This is in no way to criticize or demean the individuals. This is a teaching point. Notable people have made mistakes, and we will too. It's part of life. How we respond and what we learned is what is important. First person we're going to look at is Abraham. He was known as the father of faith. From Abraham came the promised son Isaac, and then Jacob. From Jacob came the 12 tribes. From the tribe of Judah eventually would come Jesus. Abraham was a man that God made a covenant with. He bargained with God regarding Sodom in an effort to save the righteous. It's clear that he had a close connection with God. Yet on 2 occasions he lied. Instead of trusting God to protect him and Sarai, he gave into his own means of protection. His faith in God waned. Yet he's still remembered as the father of faith. On another occasion, he allowed Sarah to talk him into taking Hagar, her handmaid, because the promised son had not come. Ishmael was conceived, and this was not God's plan. He did not wait for God's perfect timing. Mistake after mistake, and yet God never gave up. Isaac would come, and Abraham would be remembered for his faith. He is one of many notable Bible characters. Let's look at another. Moses. He led the people out of Egypt into the promised land. Yet he never got to enjoy the promised land because he struck the rock instead of speaking to it. His mistake cost him. And some mistakes will cost us. That does not mean we should give up. In Deuteronomy, Moses stands on the bank of the Jordan. He reminds the people of the law, he gives them instructions, and encourages them to possess the land. He could enter it himself. This fact could have led Moses to say, what's the point? I can't enter, so who cares? You guys go have fun for yourselves. But instead, he stayed with them to the end, like a true leader. It might have been too late for Moses, but it wasn't too late for them. Moses was called a friend of God. God buried Moses, and no one knows where. He was God's chosen, despite the mistakes that he made. Never give up because of your mistakes. God can still use you. Others may be depending on you. You do not even know it. We move to the New Testament with another notable Bible character, Paul, formerly known as Saul. He was an individual that persecuted Christians. He held the coats as Stephen was stoned. He was on the wrong side, you could say. For Christians, he was mistaken. For Saul, he was doing what he believed to be right. However, in all of this, God used the persecution to get the gospel to other areas. Then, on the road to Damascus, his life changed. Saul became Paul, and he became the greatest evangelist and missionary arguably ever known. He wrote 13 of the 27 books of the New Testament. He is living proof that even the greatest mistakes can be forgiven. As long as there is breath, there is hope. Don't let your mistakes define you. Get out of the mud, clean yourself off, and give it another go. Moving away from the Bible, we look at Albert Einstein. He was expelled from his first school, made many mathematical errors, and recognized his own blunder regarding the cosmological constant. Yet, Einstein did not let his mistakes deter him. He pressed on. He is known for E equals mc squared. He also revolutionized physics with his theory of relativity. From Bible characters to modern day well-known historical figures, we find that they all made mistakes. You're going to. That is a fact of life. Choose to go forward and not give up. The mistake becomes a learning point instead of a prison for you to dwell in. There are many other examples of individuals who made mistakes. David should have been with the troops, and he stayed back. This led him to going up to the rooftop and seeing Bathsheba bathing, and this led to David's greatest mistake. Thomas Edison had to do 1,000 experiments to perfect a light bulb. Abraham Lincoln is arguably one of our better presidents, and yet many of his business ventures and political campaigns were fraught with mistakes. Individual after individual, mistake after mistake, yet they persevered. So, what is the point? The first point to convey is that we can learn from these examples. We learn to persist, to continue on, to not give up. Sometimes God will use our mistakes for good. Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery, yet that mistake put Joseph where he needed to be. Other times, our mistakes are our teacher. I mentioned this earlier, but mistakes can sometimes be really bad, such as the case with Moses. Just because a mistake may potentially disqualify you does not mean that you give up. God can send someone else. You can instruct that person so they do not make the same mistake. It may be too late for you, but it's not too late for others. Mistakes help us in relationships, help us to value others. Mistakes are not going away. We are prone to them as long as we live in our fleshly bodies. Individuals commissioned and called by God made bad choices, and yet they were still used to bring him glory. Point number 2 is that mistakes are important. They teach us what not to do. If we can remain humble, we can reflect on where we went wrong, and adjust, then we can improve. Through the mistakes that we make, we can build character and resilience for future challenges. Again, it is what we do after the mistake. Feeling sorry for yourself and giving a mistake a place to stay in your mind will not benefit you. Learn from it, let it go, and move forward. As mentioned previously, mistakes help with relationships. You can provide others with helpful advice, or Others can come to us when we make mistakes and give us advice. If we accept what others have to offer us, we can build a relationship. Admitting that you need help is not a weakness. It is okay to be vulnerable and transparent. Yes, you risk getting hurt. The answer and path to the next thing, though, may come in us admitting that we made a mistake. When people come to us and they own up to their mistakes, be kind and compassionate. Build a deeper connection with it. Don't condemn them. No one is condoning or congratulating a mistake. We're seeking simply to understand and to help each other on the way. Again, when drive this point home, mistakes are not failures. We are too easily defeated sometimes. Again, only when you stay down does a mistake shed its skin and become a failure. Get up and get going. Wanted to include a few quotes regarding mistakes before I wrap things up. John Warren stated, "If you're not making mistakes, then you're not doing anything. I'm positive that a doer makes mistakes." Oscar Wilde said, "Experience is simply the name that we give our mistakes." An anonymous quote, "You can pick up a mistake and carry it as a burden, or you can set it down and use it as a stepping stone to greatness." Albert Einstein, who we mentioned earlier, stated, "A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new." Regardless of the mistake or the mistakes that you made, there's always hope. David was still known as a man after God's own heart in Acts 13:22. Abraham is still known as the father of faith. God is merciful and gracious. He loves us. You're not done. You're not defeated. There is life and there is opportunities after mistakes. Your outlook will determine your direction. If you stay put, you can go back or you can go forward. The choice is yours. Remember that God is our hope. He offers us hope. He is a sure anchor. Get stuck in our mistakes and we're off course. Drop the anchor. Let go of the wheel. Give it to God. Let Him help you get back on course. Follow His loving guidance. If you stay in your mistake, it will only shipwreck you. Remember, Jesus will always forgive you if you ask for it. People may not necessarily forgive you, and that can hurt, but live for God. He loves you, and He forgives you. We can go forward, and we can give up. What is your choice? Every day make that choice before your feet hit the floor. Declare the following: I may or may not make mistakes today. If and when I do, I will go forward. I will not give up. Then pray for God's guidance and go, knowing that He has you. He will never let you go. Cling to Him, and He will help you. Learn from the mistakes you do make. Invite others into your life to help you, and never stay down. Mistakes are not failures. Pray that this has encouraged and blessed you. May God richly bless you in all that you do.